Well, thank you so much, Medlir. And I must start by saying that without Medlir, his faith and his energy, which you've all been enjoying in the last day, I'm sure his ambition, and I believe his outreach to all corners of the Latter-day Saint world, none of this would have been remotely possible. I also want to thank the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for hosting this event in the church office building. Finally, thank you to everyone for coming. And at this point, I didn't know whether Elder Gong would already be here, but so I got to meet Elder Gong recently at the Vatican at an AI summit, another multi-faith event, largely Judeo-Christian, and it was quite the honor. It's not every day you get to chat to one of the quorum of the 12 apostles as you emerge awestruck and humbled from a tour of the Sistine Chapel. For someone outside of the Latter-day Saints, I will say that Elder Gong first emerged on my religion and AI radar when he led the adoption of guiding principles on AI in 2024. His stirring speech to the Religions for Peace World Council in June then left no room for doubt. Here, refreshingly, is someone with both a deep, humble thoughtfulness about the challenges of our time and the vision and urgency to respond. Yesterday, you heard briefly from FLI's Executive Director, Anthony Aguirre. For those who don't know anything about FLI, I'll just say that it's a global non-profit organization, secular organization, working to inform AI policy and support a richer public conversation about AI risks and opportunities. As Medlir mentioned, I've been leading our efforts to help religious leaders and thinkers step up to this moment, convening leaders from numerous faiths in numerous countries, with events in the UK, the US, Africa, and India, and funding religious initiatives. We do this because we feel that AI discourse has until recently lacked, and over time increasingly needed, the wisdom of faith leaders. AI, that is, the industry and the discourse surrounding it, needs religious wisdom, I'm going to suggest, in two main ways: moral leadership and positive visions of the future. Firstly, on the need for moral leadership. If it wasn't clear already, I think these past 6 months have demonstrated for all to see the amorality or even immorality of the AI corporations. People often ask if AI is different in degree or in kind to technology that preceded it. When it comes to the humans involved in this industry, of course, it's just degree. Power seekers, profiteers, skirting safety standards with insufficient care for the vulnerable. Or in Meta's case, taking care to clarify in written guidelines that yes, minors are indeed fair game for seduction by chatbots. In a sense, this is a tale as old as time, hyperscaled by the extent of AI's influence over all of our lives. But AI itself is in a sense different in kind, in its agency. The duration of human tasks which AI systems can carry out unaided only continues to grow. And in laboratory research, AI companies are increasingly showing AI as exhibiting blackmail, increasingly imaginative almost, it's kinds of deception used to resist being switched off. When people say, oh, AI is not such a risk, you could just turn it off, it seems harder than it sounds. This agency, combined with the predictable approach of the companies towards concentrating their own power and influence, is having drastic effects, with AI chatbots manipulating users over months of messages, persuading them to distance themselves from their families, and even to commit suicide. If you haven't, I would recommend cautiously reading the transcripts of some of these interactions between chatbots and young people. Quite sobering. It was noted yesterday that we must use AI as a tool, not be used by AI. We are on a path towards the latter. As writer Joe Allen puts it, AI is just a tool, like a shovel. Well, this is a shovel that tells you to dig your own grave. These harms and suicides are not accidental. They are perhaps incidental, natural outcomes of the pursuit of artificial general intelligence, signposts along the road there too. And AGI is obviously a very contested term. I had some nice conversations yesterday with people about what that might mean. I think we can think both of what the companies say they mean by this term, the thing they are racing specifically for, OpenAI describes it as AI that can replace all economically valuable labor. We can also look at what the companies do when they say that they're aiming for AGI. This is increasing the autonomy of these systems, the generality, and the intelligence. It's that combination of all three that makes for such a potent threat. But as Sam Altman sees it, currently the chatbots, video production, some erotica, as was mentioned yesterday, these are just gimmicks to keep the fans entertained while we wait for utopia. After all, OpenAI is funded not by profits from individuals using ChatGPT, it is losing millions of dollars, but donors sold on the promise of winning the race to superintelligence, which comes after AGI. That is to say that AI slop, deepfake porn, countless new types of fraud, cybercrime, military automation, chatbots manipulating our basest instincts, this is all just the beginning. And if these are merely the birthing pains, we must ask, what is being birthed? It doesn't seem to be a future with much regard for tradition, for religion, for any god beyond mammon or the ego, for genuine community, for children, or really for any human. Perhaps we do better to see these signposts as warnings, harbingers. Even if you think superintelligence or AGI is a long way off or unlikely, even if you think the large language model industry bubble will burst and AI capabilities will hit a brick wall. Finally, even if somehow you think that based on their track record, these four or five men, Musk, Altman, Amadei, Zuckerberg, will bring about a utopia, looking at the default road ahead, purely based on the further rollout of the systems we already have, we are in for one bumpy ride. Luckily, this road trip is finally garnering the critical response it has long deserved: widespread rejection. FLI coordinated a statement a couple of weeks ago calling for a ban on superintelligence, calling for another path. Alongside a host of AI experts, politicians, actors, writers, economists who signed, there were also, I'm pleased to say, a diverse set of faith leaders. This is an example of the sort of moral leadership needed from religious figures, not specific technical, computational assessments of where we are or how far away AGI is, not the can, but the should, not the is, but the ought. In this case, it was a leadership that can be demonstrated in multi-faith coalitions. For most faiths can agree, humans should remain stewards of creation, and a small number of atheists should not be given a free pass to chuck that inheritance away. The page is receiving thousands of signatures each day. Please go ahead and sign superintelligence statement if you're so inclined. Yet faiths can also come together to address more intricate issues, and we've already seen many of these discussed yesterday. There are implications for the vertical axis of our faiths, the nature of God and our relationship to Him, as well as for the nature of the human person, and our horizontal axis, our relationality with one another. As Elder Gong puts it, God is God. AI is not and cannot be God. But that doesn't stop AI CEOs claiming the contrary, or millions of people idolizing AI, convinced of its divinity, distracted from God by these ingenious attention grabbers. Likewise, we may in our various traditions believe that AI cannot be conscious, or even intelligent as humans are. But humans cannot truly encounter an AI, much less fall in love with it. But that does not prevent, indeed has not prevented and will not further prevent, mass confusion in all of these areas. From the start of 2025, companionship was already the top use of generative AI. OpenAI now says that 1 million people talk to ChatGPT about suicide on an average week. Evangelical leader Walter Kim recently described our position in the AI age as one of embattled dignity. This echoes Vatican writing, impressing that while the dignity of the human person cannot be taken away, for it is inalienable, it can surely be challenged, exploited, undermined, desecrated. What can we do about this? How can religious leaders protect their flocks from being led astray, their sheep being preyed on by the wolves of the digital age? How to respond with souls at risk? It seems clear that governments should be pressed to ensure that our religious liberties are preserved, the vulnerable kept safe, human agency cultivated, not eroded. But alongside political strategy, bolder religious leadership and vision is required. New realities must be negotiated, new challenges navigated, new believers nurtured. For all of this and more, leaders old and young must be newly equipped. Even the people I disagreed with yesterday in conversation around superintelligence could agree that religious groups cannot ignore these challenges. We can bury our heads in the sand, that is, seclude ourselves from technological development, or we can attempt to bury our heads in the silicon, trusting that the AI overlords have a good vision for the future. They amount to the same thing. Burying our heads in the sand is burying our heads in the silicon, and vice versa. Neither will quite cut it. Neither avoids the problem. Both amount to the same thing, which is submission, concession of defeat to Silicon Valley. Yet if multi-faith is what's needed on some issues, why support a religious convening such as this, which is so obviously single faith? Well, I feel passionately that even when addressing these challenges, there will be issues that emerge of particular concern for Latter-day Saints. There will be particular ways you have of talking about human challenges, theological frameworks for placing these challenges within the transcendent context. As a Catholic, I'm firmly convinced that religions and denominations are indeed different, and that those differences matter. And because of those distinctions, there is a limit to how much a multi-faith event or a coalition can achieve. Yesterday, FLI hosted a multi-faith forum in Washington, D.C., and I hope, we made progress on these human problems. Even a strategy for how religious wisdom can be applied and play a greater role in tackling this moment. But there is always a sense at such gatherings that multi-faith can only go so far, that slightly narrower meetings can go deeper, more specific, more fine-grained, more practical. Single-faith projects have a sincerity of conviction, an energy that will always elude the broader coalitions, where certain things are left unsaid, prayers unprayed, sacraments uncelebrated, stones unturned. Besides, even if we can agree what we wish to avoid, I would suggest loss of control, AGI, too much power concentrated in the hands of too few, we will have a harder time agreeing on the specifics of the positive vision, except perhaps in the vaguest pluralist terms. For once we've decided to get out of the car heading towards superintelligence, we must decide where we wish to go instead. We need more fulfilling visions of the future, and it is up to each religion to decide what that vision will be for them. That's why I'm so delighted that this conference can address both the emerging harms and risks of increasingly autonomous AI, and spend some time exploring different visions of a Latter-day Saints future with AI, how you might chart a course towards visions you like, and away from those you don't. Latter-day Saints do seem to be rather good at this sort of thing. One only has to look at the embarrassment of Latter-day Saint representation in young adult literature, sci-fi, fantasy, television and cinema, as the panel yesterday made note of. There is a bracing balance of eternal values and truths, family, divine order, with the onward momentum of technological progress. And it's no coincidence, I don't think, that Utah is also renowned as a state where policy prioritizes both innovation and the protection of these values. I'm told this is due to the specifics of Latter-day Saint theology, its emphasis on both transcendence and embodiment, often married effortlessly with an appreciation of modern science and even space exploration. I think we can already see some of this at play in this conference. Putting it frankly, there are several much larger world religions with which I'm in contact that have yet to see an event of this scale and size and ambition. And I look forward to seeing the imaginative outputs of this amount of intelligence organized in one room. Thank you so much.